Stanford, as of this morning, as we are recording this, there's a couple moves we need to report. I think top of mind, Frank Reich, interim head coach in a unique way. Both his side and Stanford's side, the Andrew Luck side, have said it's just for this season. Now we will begin a national search. You look at him, he's impressive. I mean, I talk to people in the NFL and they talk about his character being second to none. I've never worked with him. I shared a stage with him at the Super Bowl a couple years ago, Jim. I did the kind of like a Man of the Year event where we honored Russell Wilson. I was the MC along with Sage Steele, which was fun. And Frank was there and he gave a speech. And he didn't know me from anybody, but couldn't have been more thoughtful. Like remembered my name, looked me in the eye, like, hey, you, like acted like we've known each other. He had just had that endearing quality that I think really talented leaders have. I'm curious when the news hit for you, what your takeaway was, and even maybe your thoughts. I want to give mine on the strategy from Stanford here to go with kind of a pseudo Band-Aid to just kind of bring some peace and some stability to what seemed to be a rocky, 4 or 5 days.
Yeah, I mean, we're recording this on Monday. Tuesday is the first day of spring practice, so they needed to figure this out very quickly. This is obviously a Stanford team, 4 straight years of 3-9. The last 2 years of David Shaw and both years of Troy Taylor. So obviously they need a comeback. And when you think Frank Reich, you think comeback. I mean, he's part of the 2 greatest comebacks in football history. Granted, this was as him as a quarterback. The first one when he was in college at Maryland, they were playing Miami down 31-0 at halftime. They came back winning 42-40. The one that probably even more people are familiar with is in the NFL playoffs in the wild card round when he was filling in for the injured Jim Kelly. The Bills were trailing the Oilers 35-3 in the third quarter. They come back, win 41-38 in overtime. So if there's someone who understands like how to like block out the chaos and just go, like this is it. Obviously, him and Andrew have a relationship from their time together at the Colts. His first year coaching the Colts was Andrew's last year in the NFL, so they know that together. He coached from the Colts from 2018 to 22, and then the year after that, he went and coached the Panthers. So it'll be interesting to see how this all works out. But like that to me is the first thing that when I think Frank Reich, I think of comebacks, and obviously Stanford is really in need of a comeback right now.
Yeah, that's I love the bridge there. I can remember. I want to say it was like 1993. I don't know what the year of the Bills game, but I remember watching it in my living room and leaving at halftime and being like, this is like glued to every snap. I feel like snow was kind of coming down. It was, at least in my own brain in Pennsylvania as a child, and watching Frank Reich is a memory seared into my sporting life and my mind. I think when I look at this job from an analytical standpoint and trying to be really thoughtful, let's just go through the layers of it. One, from everything that we know, Troy Taylor had to navigate, some issues that he clearly were reported about him at Stanford. And it seemed like he kind of did the work necessary. Then a report comes out and Andrew Luck chooses last week to make a decision to fire Troy Taylor. To your point, they had not won since he's been there. And I think, to be fair, Stanford is not Colorado. They can't replace an entire roster when a new coach comes in. They have had concerns in the portal. There's been reported concerns on NIL. I think the NIL has suitably been figured out. The portal obviously is a different beast academically, but I do think they have something unique to sell, whether that was David Shaw or Troy Taylor. Everybody's kind of on the same note of like, come get the degree. It's 3 years, and then you can transfer out. And I still think that is a tremendous model at Stanford. Once they made the move, I think the first conversation we had here at Y Option was like, Frank Reich. Like it just naturally popped up because you saw the connection between Andrew Luck. Tavita Pritchard, to me, could easily be the long-term answer there. But doing it right now, Andrew Luck and company, right? You look at Alden Mitchell now, our dear friend, formerly at the Pac-12 Networks. To me, she could have ran the Pac-12 Networks. She's now the interim AD at Stanford. So congratulations to Alden and her family. She's awesome, Stanford fans. Like she is to me, an incredible human. Really excited for her and this opportunity. But they decided that they wanted to go with the strategy of, let's just put, I don't want to, let's just try to fix it in the immediate. Because here's the reality. When you have a head coach getting fired, there's a 30-day window that kicks in the transfer portal. Guys can leave and depart. So to your point, like now they start spring football, and here comes the next portal window. David Bailey's already entered it, even though it's not necessarily open, but he left the program to go in, which is just going to happen. That's going to be part of it. But I think Stanford, they keep the staff. They give Nate Bynum, hail to Pitt, former Pitt Panther. He's going to be the play caller on offense. Frank Reich, clearly an offensive background. He's called plays a bunch in the NFL. I'm glad that the staff stayed. And then I think just from organizational standpoint, they were like, let's just try to navigate this one step at a time. Do the next best thing, right? This is Chris Peterson always says, just do the next right thing. The right thing is hire an adult that can manage a staff of, I'd imagine, over 50 people, from recruiting all the way up to play callers. He's done it before. He's done it at the highest of levels. He'll have no problem doing that. I think he'll bring inspiration to the players. I think he'll give players hope. And I think he'll give that program some hope. The other side of this, there was a world where you say, hey, let's just push spring ball to June. It's going to happen next year, in my opinion, anyway. And let's go right now, be the only available job, and go interview anybody we want. And I'm telling you, from my phone to your ears, a lot of people wanted the job that I think would surprise a lot of people, some really talented, successful head coaches. But Stanford chooses to not do that. And I understand why, Jim, because I think if they did punt it, they were going to lose so many players. Like, I just think that was probably I think it's safe to assume the biggest concern, as always, is, are we going to lose the entire roster? So they're not. Like, I don't think they will. I think Frank Reich is going to come in much differently than any of these other scenarios. This is nowhere, don't even comp it to Baylor. Like, it's a different planet. Like, it's a different world than that. Like, this is its own instance. And I think that Frank Reich brings some stability right now. I love that the staff isn't fired, right? They're going to stay on. And then Andrew Luck and Alden and company, well, they need to say, who are we going to be in the world of college football? Who are we going to be? Are we going to be able to compete in rev share? What's our strategy around that? Are we going to be able to compete in NIL? Because it's not going away. How are we going to navigate the transfer portal? Like, all of those things, I would imagine if I'm them, I'm probably not ready to answer yet to a coach that may be interested in the job. And as I referenced, I think a lot of people are interested, but those are all the questions they needed probably real answers to before taking the job. And I'm going to assume Stanford now is going to sit back with stability at the head coach, at least an adult in the room, be able to navigate it, somebody who can manage it. And now Andrew Luck as the GM and Alden and company, they need to get in the room, Carter Henderson, all of them at the top of the Stanford athletic department, and say, who do we want to be? Like, and I can't wait to that answer, because I think it's going to be, we want to be elite. We want to go back to Rose Bowls. We want to go compete for championships. And we need to now really set a plan in mind with legit parameters to be able to compete in the ACC, where we're not getting nearly the money that everybody else is getting. We got to travel. It's obviously a disadvantage traveling across the country. That's been proven by fact. Like, how are we going to go compete in that thing? And I can't wait to see, because Andrew Luck is as competitive as anybody in college football, in all of football. And now he gets to attack this thing. So congrats to him. I'm sure he could rest easy knowing Frank Reich is in the building. They start spring ball, to your point, this week, which would be really fun because they got answers, right? He's a quarterback, going to be a young guy. How are they going to navigate that? And then more importantly, like, how are they going to get recruiting? Because you still are selling something that is even bigger than whoever you name as the head coach. But you still got to be able to pay. You still have to be able to compete in the world of NIL. It wasn't like what it was a couple years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Like, the degree is elite, but it's not as elite if you cannot meet some of the other, just competitive elements that go into recruiting right now. That's my spiel.
Is it a concern for you at all, or is because the game has changed, and obviously this will only be planned for just the 1 year, that Reich has never coached in college before? He has a long NFL pedigree from after his playing career as a long time, mostly backup quarterback, and then was an assistant, won a Super Bowl as part of the Eagles staff, and then as I mentioned, was a head coach of the Colts and the Panthers. Is that a concern with that, or the way the game has evolved, is that really not really a real big worry?
Yeah, I think two sides there. I think the XO side of it, time management side of it, like, that's always an adjustment. You talk to Pat Shurmur, who's the offensive coordinator for Colorado. You talk to anybody who's gone NFL to college, they all say the same thing. It's hash marks and time. I have 20 hours a week. Now, there's some teams that could care less about the 20-hour rule. I'm not going to say who they are, but we're in a different world. Stanford,
Right.
Clearly they care about it, right? I mean, that was part of the report that came out around Troy Taylor. So I think that will be a little bit of an adjustment in terms of what they can put on players, right? Like Bill Belichick's probably having to navigate that to a certain degree at North Carolina. But I don't think that he can't. Like, I think the agility will be no problem. That's why I love that the staff is there, right?
Yeah.
Will he tweak practice? 100%. Will he impact the offseason program? 100%. But why is Frank Reich really there? He's there to be a beacon of stability and of hope and inspire these guys. Like, why would I leave now if I've got this guy with all these NFL relationships, all this experience? It's going to be run probably more like it was with David Shaw than it was with Troy Taylor. I think that he's got natural leadership traits. I mean, now it's another quarterback, right? Troy was a quarterback, Harbaugh was a quarterback, Shaw was a wideout. But you have like the natural intangibles of the QB, right? To your point, coming in, and a guy just with a ton of experience. So I think it's actually a net positive in that regard. I think from a recruiting standpoint, and to your point on like college football is free agency every year, I think Stanford is built more like the NFL than any team. So hang with me on this. Like, when you sign at Stanford, you essentially are signing a 3-year deal because everybody signs up because they want to get the degree. I've talked to so many parents and recruits. They're not going to Stanford because they can't wait to play in front of a sparse crowd. And I'm not even trying to take a shot at them. Like, that's reality. They're going to Stanford because they know they're going to get a degree, play football, and the relationships and connections from that school. Like, I think every recruit is very aware of what Stanford can offer. So you're signing up to be there for a couple years. I get it. You can say, well, David Bailey just left. Well, he's also a premier player who they got 2 staffs ago. Like, I remember when he showed up on campus with David Shaw. Like, this is his 3rd head coach. For some players, just kind of like, dude, I'm good. And I'd imagine whoever his agent is getting hit up because he's a chance to be a premier edge rusher, and they're at a premium, especially in the second portal window. So this could be as much business decision as, hey, give me some stability, maybe get home, like whatever it might be for David Bailey. So I want to wish him the best because he was always awesome when I was around him. To the point, though, of why it's comp to the NFL is, I just think for Coach Wright, he's going to be able to walk in and he's not going to have to worry about, 30 players dipping. Like, yes, they can go, but I think guys value it way more than if this happened at Texas Tech right now, or at any other school that is like a traditional football college that's been, Texas Tech has been better than middle of the road. But if you comp another team that's gone 3-9 the last 4 seasons, I think they're losing way more players in Stanford. I would bet it's less than 10 guys hit the portal. We're already at 1, but I bet less than 10 by the time we get to the end of April because of the hire of Frank Reich and the degree that Stanford has. Because you do have a lot of pieces in place. I think now it's about like, what are they really, right? So if I'm a head coach, and let me be Will Stein, who I think is a rock star. Let me be Brennan Carroll, offensive line coach for the Raiders, interviewed for a couple head jobs. Let me be Jimmy Doherty, right? Let me be Boise State's head coach. Like whatever it is, like all of these people will be looking at this job. Jim Mora, UConn. Like, you look at anybody that I think would be a pseudo candidate for this thing, they're going to ask some really specific questions right off the bat, right? It's how are we navigating the portal? It has to be better than what it was. Or what's our competitive advantage? And how are we navigating rev share, which eventually we believe will be passed, and or NIL. And I think that's probably where Stanford has to go next, of like, how are we going to construct this roster to really be competitive? Because I think it's hard, again, to come back in and be like, it's going to take us 2-3 years now to get some young guys in, develop them. Like, I think there's got to be a little bit better of an answer than that. Because that was the Troy Taylor model of like, recruit really well, and then they'll stay, and we'll be bad for 2 years. But that 3rd year, which was coming up now, like, here we go. I don't know if I looked at this roster this year and was like, here we go. I think they do have some work there, and I think they'll do it. I really do. So there's my take. There's our take on Stanford and the moves that they have made. Alden Mitchell, she's the interim AD. Frank Reich is the head coach.